My name is Kang, and I'm not sure whether I should be happy or sad, because I have yin-yang eyes that can see ghosts. For quite a long time I sat on a park bench that day and just thought if I was like Mr. Zoo to become a shaman. Suddenly there was one girl who probably had been watching me sitting on the bench from the side, so she came and spoke to me. She asked me if I saw anything strange in front of me. Her question was pretty unpredictable, so I didn't know what it meant. She showed me a rope on the ground and asked me whether I could see it move. I was also watching the rope. For what reason? I was confused how to explain it to her. I was thinking about what to say when her mother called her from afar. She was very cute and also very nice. She held her mother's hand, just took a few steps when in a sudden she turned around and said I looked cool when I wear sunglasses. This statement made me think. I returned my attention to the rope on the grass in front of me as I watched her and her mother walk slowly. It was a rope the width of a finger, and it was moving. But there was no wind that day, and the rope appeared to be blown up. There was a young man sitting on the ground playing with his dog. He seemed to feel something strange. The dog barked angrily and made him turn his head to have a look and find a rope on his shoulder. The rope tightened around his neck immediately after it wrapped around his body before he could react. His dog seemed to have witnessed something terrible as well, barking behind the young man. I quickly rose from the bench and removed my sunglasses. I ran to save him immediately. Simultaneously, I reached into my pocket and pulled out a handful of soybeans, specially crafted soybeans using Mr. Zoo's method. When I removed my glasses, I noticed a male ghost tugging on the rope, attempting to strangle the young man. I dashed forward, hurling a handful of soybeans at the ghost. Soybeans pelted him like raindrops, and he hissed in agony in the white smoke. The ghost was stopped because he was in too much pain. He abruptly turned his head, his tongue protruding from his mouth, and looked at me with angry eyes. I rushed to him, not letting him continue to attack, and as I was about to throw the soybeans again, he turned to me and held the rope in his hand. He appeared to be very angry, glaring at me, but it seemed that he realized he had encountered an opponent, so he quickly vanished. I left because I saw the ghost was afraid of me, so I rushed over to help the man up and check on his condition. He rubbed his neck, perplexed by what had occurred. The rope was now falling to the ground as well. After the man and the dog had left, I quickly dialed Mr. Zoo's number and informed him of the ghost that I had seen. Mr. Zoo asked me to visit him at his home because the situation was serious, so I took a taxi there. This was the first time I used soybeans to attack a ghost. I told Mr. Zoo. He laughed heartily and said that the magical soybeans he gave were extremely beneficial to me. Mr. Zoo also stated that I frequently encountered these things as a result of my destiny. I asked Mr. Zoo why that ghost attempted to kill innocent people on purpose. Mr. Zoo stated that the ghost had been hung. This lost soul was looking for someone to accompany him. He pulled out his phone and showed it to me. I only took a quick glance at it and was astounded by the contents in the phone. That was the news, he gathered. The subject was suicide by hanging, and the deaths of those people were strange. I realized that the few people who had committed suicide had nothing to do with the hanged ghost I'd seen. After I experienced a few things before, a thought occurred to me. That ghost would undoubtedly return to find me. Mr. Zoo had the same idea. He didn't think I'd come across those things by chance, so he gave me some things and demonstrated how to use it. I took what Mr. Zoo had given me and left his house. I was supposed to take the bus home, but I decided to walk because I had the feeling that I'd face the ghost again. I walked a few streets before turning into an empty alley. I slowed down and carefully observed the movement around me. There were some ropes hanging on the alley wall that seemed to sway in the wind as I passed by. But I knew it wasn't the wind because I saw the ropes approaching me like snakes through my glasses. Not only that, but the electrical wires scattered in the trash cans on the ground crawled to my feet like snakes, so I came to a halt and put my hands on my belt. My neck and legs became entangled with electrical wires in an instant. I took the items on my belt that Mr. Zhu had given me. One was called the Whip of Soul. I wasn't sure why it was called this, but it was a necklace made of red rope and a lot of coins. The ropes wrapped around my neck were becoming increasingly tight, so I grabbed the Whip of Soul and smacked them. The Whip of Soul made an explosion when it came into contact with the rope. The rope on the right had been bumped and it hung like a lifeless body, so I waved the Whip of Soul and smacked the rope on the left. When I hit it, the wire was smoking black, as if something had come out of it. In front of my eyes, the black smoke slowly condensed into human form. I knew it was the hanging ghost who appeared, so I removed my glasses and there he was, standing in front of me. I was a little scared when I saw him from the front. When you see the ghost's eyes bulge high, his tongue swollen and the indentation on his neck, you might get goosebumps. The ghost roared into the sky, his white eyes widening, and he looked dreadful. All the ropes and small thread-like things in the alley flew towards me as he roared. I didn't dare to be careless, using all of my strength to grasp the Whip of Soul in my hand, knocking the flying rope and sending it to the ground. I was enraged by my way of fighting. I wasn't sure what the ghost would do next as it stared at me with raised eyes. The Whip of Soul in my hand had broken and the coins were all over the place. Only the red rope tied the coins in my hand and the hanged ghost transformed into a black smoke and entered the red rope. The red rope twisted and wrapped around my neck several times. Then I was squeezed and I could feel the ghost tightening the rope behind me, but I dropped my terrified expression and smiled unconsciously instead. There was a crackling sound from the red rope and an aura spreading throughout the ghost's body like electric current. Those auras were like a net enveloping the ghost's body. He was hit hard, his face hurt, he wanted to get out but couldn't. In an instant the ghost began to fade, and I was successful in destroying him. The ghost vanished in an instant, transformed into black smoke. I understood now what Mr. Zhu meant when he said a soul was scattered. I knelt to pick up the scattered coins, stood up, and exited the alley. Perhaps it was because I had wiped out the hanged ghost, or perhaps it was simply admiration of Mr. Zhu's knowledge, but there was an unexplainable uneasiness in my heart. When I left Mr. Zhu's house, he gave me the Whip of Soul, strung with the enchanted Emperor's coins. If a hanged ghost clung to a rope and attempted to take my life, I could use the Whip of Soul to beat his spirit. Although I was a bit scared, I smashed the ghost following Master Zhu's instructions, and when I got rid of the hanging ghost, I felt like I had superpowers. I went back to the park bench the next day. I also attempted to let go of the psychological burden from the previous night. I met a little girl and complimented her hairpin on how lovely it was, but it didn't seem to be as simple as I had hoped, as her mother quickly took the little girl away from me. The little girl said that I looked very weird. Many people seemed to regard me as eccentric and unapproachable as a result of my long isolation. Maybe I should stay alone and hide everything behind sunglasses. That afternoon, I returned to the old owner's restaurant from the day before. The noodles here were delicious. My phone rang with a message before I could finish my bowl of noodles. It was sent by Police Officer Jiro, and when I told him where I was, he told me to meet him at a nearby street corner. There might have been something urgent that prompted Officer Jiro to come looking for me. I guess there was a new case. We agreed to meet in 10 minutes, and he said that he'd be there to pick me up and take me to the street. I was waiting for him. Then a car stopped in front of me, and Police Officer Jiro told me to get in. "Hurry! I have a complicated case. Please assist me," said Jiro. I was surprised and asked if this case had anything to do with the devil. So Jiro said that the police investigation into this case had come to an impasse. He would take me to a murder scene to investigate, and perhaps I would be able to assist him. The car drove towards the city's outskirts. I'd been there before, and it was a gathering spot for migrants. According to Jiro, due to the complicated situation of illegal immigration, there were frequent criminal cases in this area. Jiro had just turned his car into a narrow alley. Jiro parked in front of a house, which I assumed was the crime scene. I followed Police Officer Jiro out of the car. This was my first time entering a crime scene. Jiro approached me, pulled a handheld flashlight from his belt, opened the door and stepped inside. "This is the crime scene. All 3 people in the village have been killed," Police Officer Jiro said as he shined a light inside. It was quite cold inside, and I could feel a lot of yin moving around. I saw signs. A victim killed in bed based on what I observed from the crime scene. Police ruled out murder and robbery because no property was lost, though there appeared to be traces of ransacking throughout the house. The killer killed 3 people in an instant after 3 people showed signs of a minor struggle. After telling me briefly about the case, Police Officer Jiro motioned for me to remove my glasses and look around. I was about to remove my glasses when I heard a noise from the room inside. Police Officer Jiro passed by and stood in front of me to protect me. Leaning back, he quickly drew the gun from his belt. A black cat jumped out of the room and slipped out the door as soon as I walked up to it. Officer Jiro raised his gun and entered a back room. I followed him. It was a room that resembled a warehouse. I decided to start looking for clues in this room, so I removed my sunglasses. Jiro inquired when he saw my reaction. "So, what did you notice?" I noticed a man standing against a wall, and my intuition told me there was an important clue here. Jiro inquired as to what the person was up to. He also told me that I could persuade the ghost to look for more information. I took a few steps forward because he had his back to me and I couldn't see clearly. As I got closer to him, I noticed something that made my heart skip a beat. He had a large, deep cut on his neck. He was most likely slashed to death. Jiro was eager to find out what the man was up to. I stood there for a while but saw nothing. The man just stood there staring at the wall, doing nothing. Officer Jiro appeared to sense something, so he approached the wall, leaned over, and began to investigate. It was a brick wall, and Police Officer Jiro groped through every crack in search of something. Then he stopped. His palm was resting on a brick. Jiro exclaimed with glee that there was a special brick in here. He discovered that particular brick based on his experience. He snatched the brick with his hand and yanked it out. I noticed a hole in the wall and leaned forward, curious to see what was inside. Jiro reached inside and carefully removed whatever was inside. It was revealed to be a lottery ticket. We're both curious as to why there was a lottery ticket hidden inside this wall. Jiro took a closer look and stated that he had discovered a motive for the crime. Surely this lottery ticket won and the killer murdered the victim's family as a result, said Jiro. He then went out right away and he appeared to be able to track down the murderer. I dashed after him to the car. Jiro now looked to be very confident as he drove to the end of the corner. I was curious, so I asked Jiro where he was going next. Jiro then asked if I had seen a lottery ticket agent when I first came into this area. Because the lottery ticket had the dealer's address printed on it, Jiro decided to apprehend the killer here. I went into the store with Jiro. The owner was a middle-aged man who welcomed us warmly. Jiro was asked by the owner if he had come to buy tickets or redeem prizes. Jiro stated that he came here to redeem the prize and reached into his pocket to take the lottery ticket. He held the lottery ticket up to the owner. When the owner saw the lottery ticket, he was immediately perplexed and terrified. Police Jiro summoned a colleague and took the murderer to the police station. Because he wanted to steal the winning lottery ticket, he murdered the victim's family, but he still couldn't find the ticket. He was driven away by a police car. Jiro expressed his gratitude to me. Jiro then took a taxi to take me home because he still needed to return to the police station to retrieve the killer's gun. I assisted him once more, as well as the dead, and working with the police was also a pleasure. By doing these things, I changed my mind about my ability being bad luck. In a sudden, I was eager to call Mr. Zhu and tell him the story. I had done another good deed today.